Hello and welcome to another Round Gamer video. Today we are going to look at the new Poison Paladin, the new Dragon Slayer, IYANGURA, I don't know how to pronounce her name, but she is the new Dragon Slayer with her Panther skills, bringing in some Corrupted Panthers to the game. So let's go ahead and do a skills breakdown of her, and we'll also do a comparison with two other titans which are in the same league as her in many ways, namely NECROSA and GROWTHURN, the divine titans. So we'll have a look at how they compare. So here's the skill. Let's zoom in a bit. That's IYANGURA for you. She's a poison paladin and she comes in with some really good stats when it comes to herself. When you're looking at what she can probably do as a solo titan, especially if you are new to the game, you're looking for some titan which can stand her own and deal a bit of damage as well. I mean, she will definitely do the job. She comes in with 360% poison damage on defense. You're looking at a very high amount of health, 180% health with some 40% base health, and I think that really puts her probably either the best or probably in the top three, I would think, of the healthiest paladins slash titans in the game. So yeah, she does pretty well in that. She comes in with other skills which are quite uncommon on paladins, that is armor piercing, and you get 100% armor piercing, you get 44% critical, 188% armor, and 88% on defense. So that can go up to around 276% on armor, and you also get 60% melee resist, 35% ranged, and 35% all elemental resist on when it comes to defense. So she does a lot when it comes to herself, and being a paladin with that amount of health, I mean, there is a good possibility that you can actually take IYANGURA as a solo artist, which is quite rare when you talk about paladins. I think the only one other solo artist I can think of is Frigg, who also can do a fairly good job. But I think IYANGURA's got a really high amount of health to stand around. But when it comes to high level players, that is not why you would want to get IYANGURA. It'll be for her Panthers, because no matter what you do with all the health and armor, no titan can stand long enough to the onslaught of enemy troops. So what do we have before we get into the prestige skill? Let's go to the Panthers. Now she brings in Panthers with the exact same stats as herself. So your Panthers come with, or nearly the exact same stats. The Panthers come with 360% damage on defense. Now this is a lower number compared to a lot of the titans you've seen as we shall soon see when it comes to being defenders, but it's not terrible. You do get some amount of damage. So yeah, given that you get at least 180% poison damage when you're going up with an attack, you can actually use IYANGURA as a pretty fun titan to raid lands and stuff like that, and will also pack a punch when you're trying to take on certain defenses. So yeah, decent, respectable Panther stats, but nothing extraordinary or anything that blows out of the water. Respectable again armor piercing. Now if this was 150% or anything larger than that, as what we see on a lot of attackers, that would have been nice. But it's a respectable number, not terrible, but not too great either in the current meta. You do get 44% critical for the Panthers, which is nice. What that means is that equipping a single relic that or two relics even that boost the critical for Panthers can let you get 100% critical for the Panthers. So that's quite a nice skill. The Panthers are going to be really healthy. You're going to get 297% health with 40% base health added to that. So they are very likely going to be one of the most healthiest Panthers in the game. And we do a comparison with NECROSA and GROWTHURN. We shall figure out who actually produces the healthiest Panthers. When it comes to armor, you do get a massive amount of armor. On defense, that is 276% armor. which is crazy. And you know, you can quite easily build up 400% armor for Panthers for Yangara just through relics. So that's great. The armor is definitely going to come in play when it comes to Yangara. And you get all the same sort of stats. You get 60% melee resist, 35% range resist, and 35% all elemental resist. Now, the impact of having 35% all elemental resist is essentially that you are gonna need about 2 relics to max out the elemental resist for a particular element. If you only have a mount armor, let's say, you take a mount armor, put that on, and bring this elemental resist to 75% resist to what you need, and then you need another relic to get to 90%. So that is good to see 35%. So yeah, I mean, it would be nice to get that to 40% to minimize more relics, but it's pretty good. Then let's look at then what do we have on this special skill. So the first one is whenever your own troop dies, if you, let's say, bring in all panthers, if one of your panther dies, you're gonna get a corrupted panther as a replacement, I suppose. And it'll spawn anywhere on the enemy unit. So if you're, let's say, someone's attacking you in Gora, and they bring in grenadiers or any other range units, quite likely these corrupted panthers will spawn on them. Now, unfortunately, there are no details of what the actual stats for corrupted panthers are in respect to normal panthers. But my guess would be they probably do more damage, but probably have lower health. Or could be the opposite. They do lower damage, but they have much higher health. So curious to know what the stats are. Wish the devs clarified that, but we don't know that. But what will also happen is that these corrupted panthers, when they spawn in, that they will have a shield on them. And what that means is that if you use if the panthers are all accumulated to a single point on the battlefield, then whenever these corrupted panthers spawn, if they spawn within the mix of your other panthers, all your panthers will get shielded up. And in addition to that happening, whenever one of your troop dies, you're gonna have plus 25% Titan and troop armor and armor piercing. So your troops are gonna start to stack up their armor and armor piercing as well. Now, what that means is that this 100% armor piercing you see there, well, that's gonna go up to 200. That's gonna become 225% because 25 times 5 is 125. You add that to 100, and so if you lose 5 panthers or 5 troops, that's going to go up to 225% armor piercing, which is good. So you can start to make a bit of a dent. So anything that's attacking your panthers with lesser than that armor are going to start to see these panthers, even though they don't have mass amount of damage as you would want, they will start to pack a punch. And the armor, of course, will also stack up, so that 125% armor increase will take the 276% straight away to 400% upwards without any relic usage as well. So that's very nice. Now with relics, you can already see that going up to 500% and up. So IYANGURA doing pretty well on armor just from the first skill. Now, the second skill is if your enemy casts a spell. Now, let's say you're attacking any IYANGURA and you use lightning spells or you use raid spells. Any enemy spell that is cast, your enemies are going to lose 3% Titan, troop, and spell damage. So, let's say someone's going in with super buff raid spells. Now, every time that your enemy casts that spell, 3% of that damage buff is going to decrease. But this only happens 12 times though, so that means that only 36% of the enemy and Titan and troop spell damage will be reduced. That is a pretty underwhelming number in my opinion. I don't know why they chose 3%, because, well, if it's only going to do 36%, that is not a lot when it comes to reducing the damage output that your enemies are going to put out. So that is a bit underwhelming. But what you do get is that this is the debuff effect. Now the other buff effect is that you're going to get 30% Titan, troop, and spell damage and armor. So your own troops are going to do more damage, your spells are going to do more damage, etc., etc. Now, I do wonder what that means for shield spells. Would the shield spells also start to do a lot more effect? That is something quite curious. That will make a lot of difference. But if it only applies to spells which actually cause damage, such as raid spells, such as what we talk about, lightning storms, lightning spells, fireballs, or terror spells, any of those, if those go up, that's not going to be super useful. But if they do start to apply to shield spells, I think this will be interesting, because that's going to go up to 360% damage buff. And the other, of course, effect is that if your enemy casts 12 spells, that's by the way the little caveat. So if your enemy doesn't actually cast 12 spells, which is actually not a very likely event to occur, well, then you would actually not get all the benefit that you do get. But if you have Titans, for example, Zabava, the moment Zabava is in the field, she will cast 5 raid spells on each of those Panthers that come in. And if that will all automatically mean that you're going to have 150% buff to your troops damage. So that's going to take this straight away to 360 plus 150, 510%. So the damage is already increasing by that effect. But if there are attackers that are not using spells, then this whole skill slot is rendered useless. So one of the strategies of defeating any IYANGURA might be to not take any spells. Almost reminds us of what people did, or at least I did to a lot of extent, to taking on Hachimans. You don't use any spells against Hachiman, and you do well. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind. Right, third skill is every 7 seconds, but the caveat is this is going to happen within the aura. So IYANGURA, like your Rostoms and your Zabavas, they're going to cast an aura around her, so it's going to be an area effect around her. And every 7 seconds, you're going to see you're going to have a shield on 5 of the friendly troops. So again, if you can keep your IYANGURA within around your Panthers, then all those Panthers are going to get shielded, basically, because that's how shield effects will occur, the splash effect. And they're also going to cause the shield spell to have 20% extra absorption, so they will take in a bit more damage. It doesn't do anything for the duration, by the way, so it's not going to last longer, but it will absorb more damage. It isn't as high as number as you would expect, but the interesting thing is, though, how this plus 20% absorption deals or interacts rather with this sort of effect here. So if your enemy casts a spell, if the absorption also increases, because if you consider spell damage buff to equate to the shield absorption as well, in that case, these two could play well together. So yeah, that'd be quite interesting to see. I mean, how shield spell work in totality with IYANGURA is something to observe, and I'll be very curious from some of the testing videos to see how it comes into play. Right, and you're also going to get 5% melee resist to your troops, and by the way, this happens 10 times. So what that means is, well, every 7 seconds, you're going to have a shield for 70 seconds. So, if someone's attacking you in IYANGURA, one way to kind of not be affected by this is simply run away. So if whatever is attacking, if you can keep your attackers away from IYANGURA for 70 seconds, you can just not have to worry about all these shield spells and all these effects happening, because after that it goes away. But that said, this 5% melee resist to your troops will remain. So yeah, I mean, technically speaking, that if you don't kill an IYANGURA when you're attacking an IYANGURA for 70 seconds, you can automatically assume that the Panthers are going to have plus 50% melee, which basically means the Panthers are going to be completely resist to melee damage. So, well, 80% that is. There you go. So yeah, quite an interesting skill. I think how these all interact together will be something we'll have to see from testing videos. But I think shield spells are going to play a very important point in using Untitled. So if you are considering taking going for Untitled as a defender, well, you got to of course worry about Zabava's Storm Maidens are going to come and wreck it. Whether you can actually get armor to sufficiently high level, I think you can actually get armor close to 600% and upwards with the Untitled. But whether that makes a difference will be left to see. You will though have to focus on range resist. None of the skills that actually are here do anything for range resist, so you should focus on relics that take up range resist to 95%, because I think anything that isn't maxed range resist will probably get decimated no matter what you do with the other effects of health and stuff like that, because Storm Maidens are the natural born enemies of Panthers. So let's talk with the Prestige skill. Now the Prestige skill unfortunately does not do anything for the Panthers, which is a kind of major letdown. She's gotten the traditional treatment which you get for Paladins, I suppose. 120% base health. Now that may somehow become useful in terms of keeping IYANGURA alive for longer, because you do start with a pretty good stat for herself in this right off the bat, and so that might mean that getting the Prestige skill might just help her last longer on the battlefield, so that all these 70-second effects can occur. But other than that, the other effects are every 7 seconds, and this will happen in concurrence or along with the effects. You'll get minus 6% armor and damage for your enemies. So and that'll happen right after. We can get that from Prestige level 1. So yeah, that is, and there is, by the way, no limit to this. I couldn't see a maximum number, so that is interesting. So if you're gonna have that in every second, in every minute, you're gonna have about around almost 9 of these instances. And if a battle lasts for 5 minutes, you can have this happen 45 times. Now that can actually really cut down the armor for the enemy troops. Now whether this effect actually is dependent on having your IYANGURA alive, that could be curious. But the benefit of that potentially is that if that happens and there is no limit to this, then you can actually just basically cut down the armor. So if you're looking at very high armor of, say, Horde that are attacking, or anything that you're attacking against, then yeah, I mean, that could pull down. So if you multiply 6 times, what is it, 9? Is it? Yeah, no, 9. Sorry. Yeah, but times 9, that'll go 54% armor reduction you can observe in about a minute. And if the battle lasts 5 times that, 54 times 5, that's nearly 250% damage armor debuff to your enemies. So that could come into play. That is a very curious skill. Second skill is within the aura, you're gonna get 25% armor and damage to your allies, but unfortunately this can only be unlocked if your IYANGURA is Prestige level 4 or higher. So that's kind of a bit of a letdown, but if you do manage to get that in, you will be able to increase the damage of Panthers further up. And if it's maximum 12, you can actually push the damage even further. So, I mean, for nothing else, if you are considering IYANGURA as a defender, definitely worth getting the Prestige skill up to level 4, which can really make a difference. Because what I do observe with IYANGURA, and probably this is becoming a trend, that it seems to be that the devs want us to go and unlock higher and higher Prestige level skills to get some very special effects. Now, at level 7 and plus, you're going to get, whenever your Corrupted Panther dies, so you remember you only get 5 Corrupted Panthers, by the way, and you can only get Corrupted Panthers if your troops die. So if you lose 5 Panthers, you will get 5 Corrupted Panthers, and if these Corrupted Panthers die, well, you'll get another Panther back. And I just find that quite funny, actually, the way that is set up. So you kind of have to, if you lose troops, you gain Corrupted Panthers. If the Corrupted Panthers die, you get back those troops that died in the first place. So yeah, that's kind of funny one, but that's what you'll get. And you'll get Poison Cloud on enemy troops. Now, that actually, whether that does anything, I don't know. You do have, of course, effects that increase the spell damage, so that might start coming to play. But not a super useful skill, apart from, I think the only real reason to unlock 7 plus is for those extra 5 Panthers, which of course which may completely change whether you can actually defeat an IYANGURA on a land/garrison, because it just might mean that you need those extra few seconds to kill them. So yeah, IYANGURA overall, I'm not really sure whether she will actually be the next upper defender, but can certainly be a pain. But what I do fear though is that in the era of Zabavas, where Zabavas can take out, you know, extremely high health pool Goliaths. You know, whether IYANGURA will actually stand a chance, not really sure. Yeah, big question to see. But IYANGURA will do pretty well against other attackers, I think. Of course, we do have the recently released what's the fire version. Can't forget his name, not Nephilinus. But yeah, so we do have some grenadier based things that can actually cause you know, cause some issues. But yeah, I think grenadiers will be less of a problem, because these Corrupted Panthers can actually spawn on them, and that could be a problem. But I think Zabava is going to be a main problem, the main issue here. Whether IYANGURA becomes the next defender will be something left to see. But here's the other things to talk about. Here's the 3 new relics. They are pretty underwhelming in my opinion. You do get corrupted health for the egg. That could again all depend upon what the actual base stats for the Corrupted Panthers are. But the Panthers poison damage is good. At least you can put it in other sort of troops. But yeah, but I really don't like relics, particularly which only buff certain skills, certain troops, because it's only going to buff your Corrupted Panthers. So realistically speaking, this is I would consider a 2-slot relic, with the poison damage being the more effective one. The crown though, yep, you get 80% poison damage for your Panthers there, your Corporate Panthers, which could be a nice one to put on, because that is a significant number. But again, it's still a 2 slot, 2 relic slot, with Panther melee resist being the other one. Actually, we don't consider this to be super useful relic, because Panthers already start with 60% melee resist, and you don't really need a relic like this one to take the melee resist up. You can use some of the other relics that have featured in the past to actually get that up, especially those that came with Sigunga and Nurgle. Those could be quite useful. Then you got Movindos's Tether. This one is an alright relic actually, because you get Titan and Panther health. This might be something you want to equip, because you can certainly get your Panthers critical up, but the armor there, not so useful. So I think this again is a 2-slot relic. The relics overall not too great, all of these being stretch goals. I think 23,000 souls when you actually, 21, 23, and 26 I think is when you get them, or something like that. So they are quite high up there, so if you don't really need to get them, you can actually stop. So here's the reward chain. If you really want to just get yourself IYANGURA, she's available at 22,000 souls, and you don't have to go anything beyond that if you don't want to. And actually, frankly speaking, you'll be alright if you did that, in my opinion. The relics before that are good enough. Putrid Pipes is a nice relic that's only been featured in a solo event, one of the weekday events, so that's quite nice to see. I think I'm definitely looking up to pick that one up. The other ones are available here. You can also pick up Jinshu at 14,000 souls. If you're looking for boost titans, GROWTHURN, if you have GROWTHURN, well, the question is whether you actually want to get IYANGURA if you have already a pretty solid poison based defender. That's up to you, but if you are, then 1.5 will be with that. 1.4 will be with Oni, odd choice there, but there you go. IYANGURA and Nurgle, and you can get 1.3 with Jinshu and Okuntor, and 1.2, 1.1 for 4-star and 3-star relics. Now, the boost relic is Chalice poison. Now whether this will actually give you, if it actually grants poison souls, and I would give props to the devs if they did that. What that could mean is that if you put in the what is it called? One of the heirloom relics, the rings that boost the souls of poison souls. Well, you can actually possibly get 1.4 going up to, is it 1.6? I'm not really sure, but I would doubt devs will be that kind to us. They probably will call it Venom Souls, as someone suggested in Facebook, or something else, that we don't get to use that. But if it's applicable, and that'll be fantastic. And we can actually do an event with 1.6, only with Norgol, by the way. So we shall see what happens with that. Alliance rewards, you can get yourself IYANGURA at level 40 at level rank 1. You can get yourself Jinshu for at 51 to 100. In fact, if you really want to get yourself a Jinshu, which is a pretty nice solo Titan, quite a fun entry-level Titan for someone new to the game. Solo Infiltrator, Poison version, pretty nice actually. You can pick him up for pretty much nothing. You don't. I think you can get into an alliance which are shooting for, I would think 6,000 or less souls or something like that, and you can get yourself a Jinshu. So if you want to just get yourself a Titan, a Forcer Titan into the game, you can, if you have the time / gems / tokens, yeah, you can get yourself a Jinshu by finding an appropriate alliance that does that. Otherwise, it's gems. Here's the calendar. This is the new format. Devs are releasing it now under a calendar tab on their website, the blog website. Titans Unleashed event, that's the XP event for Paladins, will start right after the current event ends. And there'll be a Portal Surge event where you can get yourself Portal Stones for cheaper, I think 25% off or something like that. And we're going to have Theatres of Poison starting after that. So quite an eventful week, I suppose. And so this is normally Theatres of War will let you also pick up some boost tokens for the event following in the week, which is going to be Lightning Strikes Twice, they're calling it. So it looks like it's going to be a lightning based event. If you take a guess, I don't really think we're going to see Frigg come back. We had Frigg recently, so yeah, it might just be like Solgar or yeah, one of those or Arwan, one of those Titans might be coming back. So yeah, one of those filler events, probably worth just saving your tokens. Or if you're looking for fodder, prestige fodder for your Zabava, which might be something you want to get given how powerful IYANGURA Panthers might become, then that might be an opportunity to pick some prestige fodder. Right, carrying on, here the other relics in the event. Putrid Pipes, as I mentioned, was the other one. So Titan Poison Troop Damage, this is a very good relic, which certainly can find a place on IYANGURA. So the other thing to talk about is Cockerel Pendant. Now there are a few relics which I haven't, I think, called Forest Carving. I actually haven't included in the video, probably should have on retrospect, but do check out Forest Carving, which was released, which probably is a very useful relic to include. 50% Titan and troop damage for this one, Cockerel. Now this one might be one you want to equip if you don't have a 5-star relic, because 24% range resist is very much going to be needed. So I think this relic will find a space on a lot of IYANGURA builds. So definitely worth considering. Toxic Charms also gives you some range resist. So put these together, you get 40% range resist. Add that to 7 to 35, and you're looking at 75 range resist with that. So yeah, certainly something to consider. Moving on, here is a comparison which I'm going to present for NECROSA, GROWTHURN, and IYANGURA. So yeah, GROWTHURN, by the way, just to recall, GROWTHURN is a mage class, sorceress class, or whatever they call it, but it's basically a ranger. IYANGURA is a paladin, as we know, and NECROSA is a guardian. So they do have different 5-star relics that they can equip. They're not the same in that respect. But if you look at a comparison between the Panther skills, you can actually, what you will see from the first go is, well, actually it appears that IYANGURA is doing pretty well on health, because you get 297% health plus 40% base health, and you compare that with 360% health of NECROSA. So that's very close, you might think, and you say, yeah, because and IYANGURA is probably doing better because you get 40% base health. But hold on, look at the prestige skill for NECROSA. You get 70% base Panther health, which IYANGURA's skills do not offer. So NECROSA actually wins IYANGURA when it comes to Panther health. So then what about GROWTHURN? Well, GROWTHURN gives 200% health buff. So again we're seeing that we have IYANGURA winning here. You see IYANGURA winning here, but again you compare that with the Prestige skill, you get 50% base health, Panther health, which here is 40%. So they are not too far off actually. So you can say IYANGURA is doing pretty well on this front. So yeah, IYANGURA's got more healthy Panthers, I would think, on that point. But one skill which GROWTHURN has, which IYANGURA doesn't have, is the ability to heal troops. So the actual effective health of GROWTHURN might actually start to compare or exceed IYANGURA when you consider the healing aspect of that. Anyway, moving on to the other skills, you look at the damage. Well, GROWTHURN does a phenomenal amount of damage on defense. That's 780%, and that's not even close to what IYANGURA does. So GROWTHURN wins in that case. GROWTHURN also wins in armor piercing category, and they're matched when it comes to critical and armor. When you talk about armor, you actually see that IYANGURA actually beats both NECROSA and GROWTHURN, which is actually nice. So you can definitely get more health. But what NECROSA does to which IYANGURA doesn't do, is that every 20 seconds in every battle starts, the armor keeps going up. So every 20 seconds, there's no limit to this. So no matter how long the battle lasts, the Panther armor is going to go up by 30%. So when you factor that in, the armor starts to come in very close to or starts to match IYANGURA. So that we'll have to see what the actual numbers play in. But IYANGURA is not doing terrible for being a non-Divine Titan. You do have a lot of armor to talk about there. And the skills for IYANGURA also grant more armor, as we spoke about in just some time back. Coming to melee resist, I think you're looking at melee resist. GROWTHURN and NECROSA, IYANGURA are matched. When it comes to NECROSA goes slightly lower at 40%. Range resist, they all very much comparable. I think 5% off, not too bad. But when it comes to elemental resist, GROWTHURN blows IYANGURA out of the water because you get 60% elemental resist, and IYANGURA does 35% elemental resist. So much lower in that respect. Now, yeah. So I think when you compare all of these together and you put all these skills side by side, I think IYANGURA will produce pretty healthy Panthers. But I think when it comes to being a top-notch defender, I think you can say devs have done a good job of not making her more powerful than GROWTHURN or NECROSA, and I think GROWTHURN will probably be the top dog when it comes to Panthers, and then NECROSA second, and IYANGURA the third. Do note though that in terms of bringing any special troops, it's you get only IYANGURA actually brings in 5 Corrupted Panthers. Your NECROSA brings in Omega Panthers or Omega Horde. So they also bring in some sort of special troops, but GROWTHURN doesn't. So yeah. Hopefully that offers you some insight into these Titans. Do take your time to go through this particular slide and make your own judgment of who you think is better. But that is my opinion on that. Talking about the 5-star relics, which is going to be the last thing I'm going to talk about in this video, and I do appreciate if you hear this long. It is a particularly long video, this one. If you look at the 5-star relics, now Amber of IYANGURA is the new one you can get for 7,000 gems. I think the second skill is going to be wasted on this Titan because 50% troop melee resist. If you add that to the 60% you already get, that's going to be a waste, so that isn't useful. The armor may become useful because you can really start pushing armor towards, upwards of 700%, 800% armor by having Amber of IYANGURA, and that could just make a lot of difference. So, yes, that could be useful. And one of the skill that on an ally die is 3% Titan troop ranged and all elemental resist. So, What that's useful for is that if whenever your troop dies, so you're gonna have, in order for you to get 5 Corrupted Panthers, you actually have to lose 5 of your own Panthers or 5 your troops. Now, if that happened, you can actually push your 35% resistance to range to 65% resistance to range by having this relic. So this relic does pretty well on giving you range resist, and you also get all elemental resist. You can push your 35% range element resist to 65% element resist. So this does well. It fairly well matches up with IYANGURA, as what you might see. So yeah, not too bad, not too bad. But you don't get anything with health, which could be a letdown or damage. So not extremely useful. I think not would be my personal preference for the fast relic. Then we have the Rds Guardian Blade. You get 20% all resist all elements, which is of course very useful. You can get your Panther resistance to 75% by just putting this single relic. And your Titan also can get all elemental resist, so which can actually max out IYANGURA's resistance to all elements, and also push the health even further up. So this is a pretty good relic, and definitely could find itself in a lot of builds. The other option we have is a Divine Touch. Now Divine Touch will give you 35% Titan and troop range resist. Now if you match that with what your Panthers are going to start with, you can get 70% range resist off the bat. So I think it matches very well with IYANGURA. And you get extra health, which might be something you would want, of course, when it comes to defense. So that's a good one, and you get damage. I think overall Divine Touch has got 3 out of 3 slots in my opinion that are going to be super useful. So actually, I would say Divine Touch is the best relic for IYANGURA. That's my opinion. Second would be Rds Guardian Blade. Third, second, yeah, I think I would say second would be, yeah, I would still go with second, being Rds Guardian Blade. And I would go third with Amber of Yunara. And Saigar's arm remains to be terrible, sadly, because no, it's the first relic, 60% Titan. Yeah, you can get a lot of armor for your Titan, but this relic seems to be one that built for some sort of legendary, yet to be released solo Titan. So yeah, not really convinced that's something you need to worry about. So I think hopefully that you not aiming to get Saigar's arm and play with that. Yeah, so that's it for this video, guys. I hope you found this analysis helpful. If you did, do let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in another one.